Hi, my name is Bree, and I'm American. I've been thinking about videos I wanted to make because lately, it's just weird times, weird timeline we're living in. Shout out to all the 97 babies out there because I just feel like my life, I've seen so many fucking crazy things happen in my country and in the world over and over and over. And I'm like, I'm not old enough for this yet. But I've been seeing a lot of creators lately that I just really like. And so I've been inspired to work on some topics and write some research. And this is the first video I'm filming. I have a few scripted out. Still getting my setup together, so it might be a little wonky at first. So bear with me. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited. I just feel like I have stuff to say, and I thought this would be the best way I could do that. So let's go. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about philosophy. And I don't mean just like philosophy as a whole, because that's, you could spend your whole life talking and thinking and researching about that. I mean today specifically personal philosophy. What matters to us? What drives us? What belief system do you subscribe to? What gets you up in the morning, and what kind of life do you eventually want for yourself? Not to go like high school presentation on you, but the word philosophy, it means a love of wisdom, but it also represents systems of belief that we hold. And some of these beliefs are very conscious, like if you are part of an organized religion, if you're part of some kind of community group or societal group, and some are very unconscious, like how we determine what's right and wrong. What our parents taught us was respect and disrespect and those kind of things. Whether you know it or not, you sort of have this philosophy for yourself. And I just want to make this video and kind of encourage you to be a little cognizant about it because these are trying times out here. The only people that's going to help us have a good life is ourselves. The only person that knows what you want the most is yourself. So I think if you feel kind of lost lately, I think it's a good place to start, to come back to this point of what do I stand for? What do I want out of life? How do I have a fulfilling life for me? So why do we need philosophies? Well, this world is pretty crazy, pretty unpredictable, pretty random, pretty cruel. It's always been that way, and it will always, to some extent, will be that way. If you try to look back through human history, there's like all these catastrophes, right? There's genocides, there's war, there's disease, there's economic hardships. Just anything that breaks people down as a collective whole, like these big societal things we see, like we're seeing right now with this rise of right-wing ideologies around the world, and especially in America, of course. There is still religious genocide that we have this little phone in our pocket and we can look at anytime we want to. It's great. It's great. It's great here. It's a great time to be alive. We develop these societies, we develop these like perfect ideals of a member of that society, a productive member that fits some identity. Like obviously in America right now, it's Christian, evangelical Christian, nationalist, white man. We'll just keep eating each other up and eating the world up as long as we depend on these finite resources, as long as we try to enforce these finite identities and rules of society that very intentionally exclude lots of other people, and especially marginalized people who come from other places to be there. And it's if we want anything to change, we have to be there for each other and to listen to each other and to just know what we want and what we're about. And as long as you're not about murdering everybody in your neighborhood, you're doing pretty good, I think. The long and short of the world being crazy and having philosophies like this, creating these schools of thought and these belief systems, it's a cope. It's a cope. We're coping. We're coping with this weird world. We just like one day we were like, oh, I'm a kid that my parents had and I live in this town and I go to this school, and you have to make sense of all that somehow. You can use these steps, these belief systems, to either better your life towards whatever you want out of life and to be as good of a person as you think you should be and respectable because you want to be respected, that kind of thing. It can be the path to your demise as well, in terms of like just following self-destructive wants or impulses. People that are in control, that are taking over right now in the world, that are scaring us shitless, they want you scared. Your pain is their gain. If you're chasing after things that you want in life, if you're having fun along the way, even though maybe your goals or a car you're saving up for or whatever is still a few years off, and you're just enjoying the everyday of being a human being here on this earth, it gives you a reason to live. And that's why I think this is important to talk about, especially right now. A few examples of like the positive copes could be like the traditions you and your family do for Christmas or on your birthday. It can be volunteering for a cause that you care about. It could be protesting or demanding democratic change within the system you live in, the government you live under. It can be building communities around your interests or the media that you enjoy the most. This one's a little loose, but here's like an example I thought of too, is when I first met my husband, we met in a hostel and we're from different countries, right? But when we met, we realized we had the same copy of Bukowski poems on us, like on this trip with us, which I just thought was really crazy, and it kind of led to us being curious about each other and getting to know each other better. And this isn't to say that I married him because of that, but I just thought it was a cute example of this person that I just met who lived and grew up half the world away from where I lived and grew up. Had this really random thing in common with me, like same cover, same edition, same everything. I just thought that was really interesting, and now I love him so much and I'm very happy to be with him. A few examples of ways that this cope can be negative is like if you just think, everything in the world is pointless, this life is pointless, you become numb, you become apathetic, you become depressed, you commit crimes for the thrill of it, you consider suicide, you think you can victimize other people because life is pointless and we're all worthless or whatever. And a really good example of committing crimes for the thrill of it that I thought of to mention in this video was the case of Leopold and Loeb from the 1920s in Chicago. Leopold and Loeb were these two teenage boys, and they wanted to commit the perfect crime. And they thought that by committing this perfect crime, they could prove that they were superior to everyone around them and people in Chicago and whatever. And they decided to kill a boy named Bobby Franks. The main motive that was found behind Bobby's murder was simply that, simply just wanting to prove moral and intellectual superiority to the kid that they knew in the neighborhood. They believed by having this kind of superiority, they wouldn't be held against the same moral standards as everyone else, right? So they thought they would be allowed to kill him because it doesn't matter what we do because we're better than him anyway. We won't have to go to jail. Murder as a treat is okay, I guess. After Leopold and Loeb were arrested, Leopold was quoted by a psychiatrist as saying, "Making up my mind to commit murder was practically the same as making up my mind whether I should eat pie for supper, whether it would give me pleasure." So Leopold considered himself a hedonist, and a hedonist is someone that just believes life is about chasing all the little pleasures and having as much fun as you possibly can at any expense. It doesn't matter your health, if you're just on drugs all the time, if you're partying, getting diseases. It's just about chasing pleasurable experiences and avoiding annoying, uncomfortable ones. Leopold misunderstood his own philosophy as well because he considered himself to be like Nietzsche's Übermensch or Superman. But it turns out he just really didn't understand what that meant, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So why is it important to play? Why is it important to have fun? Why is it important to enjoy life? Being playful helps us be present in the moment. It lowers our stress and our cortisol levels. It gives us a place to kind of experiment socially. It's a safe environment to fail, and it's not going to haunt you the rest of your life. It gives us new experiences. It builds our confidence. It's really important not only when you're a kid, but throughout life. We have to take care of ourselves because we're the only ones who can. And obviously we know, through diet, through exercise, through sleep, we can heal our own bodies. But we have to provide that care, that time, that patience to ourselves in order to heal. We need to be able to balance our energy and balance our emotions in order to be supportive family or friend to the people we love. And we need to be able to create personal boundaries so that we don't let anyone manipulate us or make us do anything we don't want to do or use us in any way that we don't want to be used. Just in general, having fun in life boosts your immune system. It's really healthy for your brain. It's really healthy you as a person socially, like your ability to meet new people and do new things and have new experiences, even just to have the wherewithal to do more than just get out of bed and go to work every day. By creating your own values within your life and being able to stick up for yourself in situations where that's necessary, because unfortunately for all of us, it's going to be necessary at some points or another. You protect yourself and you protect your own well-being, and nobody else can manage that for you. Nobody else knows. Once you're able to kind of pin these down within yourself a little better, you're able to grow your relationships, make them healthier, make your communication easier. You'll see more clearly what you want, whether it's material desires or goals, achievements, that kind of thing, and your self-esteem will rise. So fascists and corporate oligarchs, I feel like is the most relevant words to use today. They want you to have purpose, but they don't really care if it's joyful or not, and they don't really care if it's about you at all or not. They want you to think that it's selfish to focus on yourself this way. They want you to have a purpose that's bigger than yourself. And so usually this becomes the identity of your nationality, your state, your society that you belong to. Maybe it's even your religion, and they want that to be your purpose. If they can get you to fight tooth and nail to strengthen, expand, conquer other populations, then your purpose is fulfilled. No need for silly thoughts and feelings when you're from a strong country with a strong military and high moral standards, whether you agree with them or not. And if you couldn't tell, this is why far-right movements are very pro-military. Now, another reason that the bad guys don't want you to have fun is because they want you to be afraid of something so they can weaponize that fear within you against whatever perceived enemy there is. They want your focus on these enemies, whoever they say they may be. These enemies must be eliminated in order to protect the identity and the strength of your society, your nation. In the US, the list seems to be just growing and growing of these enemies, but they obviously include immigrants, minorities, people who don't speak fluent English, people who belong to non-Western religions, queer and trans people, political opponents, intellectuals, scientists that find data that goes against what they preach to you, journalists that speak out against these governments, as well as intentionally single and or child-free people. Another important thing to kind of be aware of when you think about the state and these enemies they want you to be afraid of and fight against is that a lot of it just comes up from manufactured consent. Manufactured consent was a term, it wasn't coined by Noam Chomsky, but it was popularized by Noam Chomsky. It basically happens when powerful elites or people in control of mass media use the mass media to change narratives of things, to alarm you. They do this so that you keep seeing the same headlines about the same stuff over and over and over until eventually they get you to agree with them. A good example of this in America, I would say, is the term the gay agenda and how it interferes with the, American way of life or American values, but really it's just white Christian nationalism values. But, it blows my mind, dude. You go out against a whole sexuality thinking that any guy who's gay or any person who's trans is just doing it to influence your kids and recruit or groom children to it. I don't that's not how sexuality works, babes. Manufactured consent works really well right now because we live in, the term I've been hearing around at least is attention economy, where we're all just watching videos and absorbing news and absorbing information off of our phones or our computers or at work all day every day. This works well because it's kind of subtle. It sounds ironic, but it's kind of subtle. They write all these same articles with these same kind of tones towards certain issues, but they're not being forceful about it. They're just saying, oh, look at this terrible crime that happened. Look at this terrible case of this. When you see those kind of headlines and those kind of stories over and over and over and over and over, maybe you won't necessarily have your mind change, flipped 180 on the issue, but it becomes at least normalized to you to see it talked about that way. It's that argument against it becomes normalized. As we see in America right now, this creates just this cycle of endless culture crises between, what's traditional values, what's acceptable, and what's just being a person. If we're too busy fighting against each other over silly things like identity politics, we won't have enough energy to fight them. We'll eat each other up and then they'll have all the power over us. Another reason that bad guys don't want you to have fun in life is because they want you exhausted. They want you exhausted to the point that you submit to whatever they tell you to do. When we have issues stemming from failure to reach important agreements, ongoing wars, and especially very unpopular ones, government regulations, economic instability, it's all really stressful. As people lose more and more hope, they lose energy that they could have otherwise used to change it. Change all these faults in society and these things that are unending and kind of left open. Once we've all lost hope, we have no choice but to turn to them. If you're broke, if you're isolated, if you're stressed about, your crappy job, or you have you need medical treatment you can't afford in America, if you're fighting with your neighbors over things that seem so silly in the grand scheme of your entire life and this entire world, you become really desperate for a sense of security. The last place you can turn for just some semblance of normalcy and order and security is your government. They'll offer you the security, the order that you want, as long as you follow every order they give you, as long as you're okay with everything they're doing, as long as you're completely dedicated to your state, to the nationalist cause. They say, we'll take care of you, and spoiler alert, a lot of the times they don't keep up their end of the bargain. This topic I made this about is pretty loose, and again, there's a whole world and wealth of philosophies and religions and stuff to fall into, but I just think it's a good place to start to know, like, what's important to you, what do you want to do, like, how do you want to spend your days, what's the point of your life? Just gonna kind of share like where I stand with myself on what I believe and what it kind of means to me. So I consider myself an active nihilist, which I believe is a pretty new term, but there's like passive nihilism and active nihilism. Nihilism in general is just kind of the belief that this life is pointless. This whole world was kind of just made by some crazy mistake and everything is so intricate and confusing, but it doesn't mean anything because we all die. I'm not going to get into like religious after death stuff, but we showed up here one day, we didn't know what was going on, and it's really confusing. So I say I'm an active nihilist because active nihilism is sort of this idea that because everything's random and crazy and we just ended up here someday and there's not really any point to it and we're gonna die, we should have some fun. Life may not have meaning, but we can be proactive in creating a nice life, doing nice things for ourselves and for others, just doing what we want to do. So the opposite end of this is called passive nihilism, which is kind of fall into this thinking of life's stupid, everything is pointless, oh my god, and just falling into this pit of despair and depression about the fact that you'll never be able to find that meaning. Active nihilism kind of just says, instead of sitting in like the pointlessness of everything, we can find freedom, we can find joy within ourselves, within our lives, whatever that, how we define that for ourselves. We can't make it happen for anybody else. We can only make it happen for ourselves, and we have to stay in check with that in order to do so. The universe is so infinite and absurd. We might as well let our creativity flow. We might as well decide for ourselves what it's about. Just also as a disclaimer about me sharing my view, I was not a philosophy major. I've taken a few classes here and there and I've read a few books. Philosophy is such a giant school of so much information and so much thought over, millennia. And even nihilism itself, there's more facets to nihilism than I'm talking about right now. So if you're at all interested or you have some other idea you want to expound on or some other belief that you want to find those facets of, I recommend you do that. I'm just want to let you know this is kind of a limited discussion here today. As I mentioned earlier in that Leopold and Loeb murder case, Nietzsche's Superman, I also really like the idea of that. Like, I don't consider myself to be the Superman, but let me just explain to you what that is. So Nietzsche had this idea that he called the Superman, and it's basically just an individual who has transcended society. And let me be a little more specific about that. They've transcended societal norms. They don't subscribe to the religion that everyone else in their town subscribes to just because that's what everyone else does. The Superman is someone who's escaped? Okay, cool. The Superman is someone who escaped herd mentality of their society. The Superman doesn't do this to like just prove he's not like other girls or whatever, but it's more about empowering yourself to find what you really think is right and wrong, for you to really think about what you want and what you don't want, and how those things have to be in balance in your life or in the world around you, because they're there, whether or not you create them or participate in them. They have become, quote, who they truly are, and they live affirming lives full of experiences of whatever it is they want to experience. So Leopold, from that case, he took Nietzsche's Superman to mean that the Superman was better than everybody else, and that's where he went wrong in attributing it to this that he committed. The Superman's not even necessarily the best at anything in particular. The Superman just knows what they want. They know how they want to be treated. They know how they want to treat other people. They're self-empowered. They know their strengths. They know their weaknesses, and they use that knowledge to the best of their ability to leverage the best solutions out of situations in life. The Superman is about self-mastery. It's about being the best that you can possibly be, and it's not about being better than anybody else, because the Superman knows that everyone else is just the same as him. I share these ideas with you, like my personal kind of takes on these situations, just as an example. Obviously, we're all different. We all have different things that are important or less important to us. We all have different just factors in our life that changed who we became, experiences, negative and positive, that we've been through that determine this for ourselves. I just put this out here to encourage you to think about this. It's okay to be unsure. It's okay to like see a lot of opinions that you don't agree with. I just think it's important to explore it. Do some thought experiments. Think to yourself, journal, consider what makes you feel really good, what makes you feel really bad, that kind of thing. Once you learn some stuff, use that information to truly live life to the fullest as you can with whatever resources you have, whatever time you have, and any energy you can muster, because it's best spent on you before anybody else. We're all different, but only you can create your own life. Only you know what your dream life looks like. Before I go today, I just wanted to share a couple last little notes about specifically the time we're living in right now. When you talk about philosophy, religion, any of that stuff, it's like it's kind of timeless. And I think there are a couple of things to think about. So of course, right now there are a lot of fascists and a lot of corporate oligarchy, and they hold a lot of money. They hold a lot of the cards in charge of our society. They stop a lot of justice from being had, etc. If you forget everything else in this video, I just want you to remember this. The most important voting power that you have in times like this is in your wallet. It's where you spend your money every single day. Now, of course, like there's some purchases that are inevitable. If you live in capitalism, you're forced to participate in it. I get that. If you live in a rural town and the only place you can get groceries is like the local Walmart, don't sweat about this too hard. But just if you're buying anything online, if you're making any big purchases, just really consider what companies or what people you're putting your money into the pockets of, if you can. We've seen in the last few years, everyone just talking about how they think the elections are rigged or fraudulent, whatever, but they also don't fully care about those elections. I don't think. I think it's way more about your money votes, because those are votes. They're votes you get every single day. So just treat them as such as often as you can. Another thing I just want to say, I know I've just endorsed this philosophy that basically says, life is meaningless and whatever, and nothing matters. But I just want to clarify, don't use that as an excuse to harm other people. At the end of the day, my main motto I would say is do no harm, take no shit. Feeling existential or feeling the pointlessness of life is not an excuse to be a dick. And lastly, and most importantly, have fun. It's not only a better way to pass the time, but you're fucking over the fascists by doing so. Again, as I said before, your pain is their gain, so flip that switch back on them. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. This is a very new format for me, so I'm a little bit terrified right now to go in and edit this and post it. But I'm really excited because I've just had so many ideas that I want to talk about, and I just want to hear from other people. So if you feel so inclined, I would love it if you interacted with this video, if you liked it, if you comment, if you subscribe. I really appreciate even just the ability to post something like this on the internet on my heart's whim. So that's awesome. But after you like, comment, or subscribe, stop looking at whatever piece of glass you're watching me on. Go outside, feel some wind, feel some sun on your skin, Go have fun. And always remember, kids, it's nice to be cool, but it's cool to be nice.